And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 2 this week of the Top Level Talk podcast. We got a very, very special guest. Definitely, I said it on Tuesday, definitely my favorite Georgia player of all time that I grew up watching. And not just saying that because he's right here. You can go back on Tuesday. Said it there then. Aaron, Dan, thank you all for being here. Aaron, thank you for joining me and Dan. We are really excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a really exciting week. Kind of wish I somewhat made that trip out to LA to watch that shellacking of a football game. But maybe it was a good thing that I stayed home just because it was a somewhat boring football game. But man, it's good to be a dog this week.
Absolutely. Dan, I'm gonna let you start it off, man. Because I know you got a story we talked about. So I'm gonna let you take it away.
Well, I mean, if you want to start with it, so I know there's no chance you're going to remember this, but so it was actually August 20th, 2011. You were a quarterback at Georgia. One of our next door neighbors, his name was Mark Dollar, and he was going to go to media day with us. And we were going to come see you guys, and his wife went into labor that morning. So that morning, my wife makes up just a little thing on the computer, a little sign or whatever. And when we got there, the quarterback line was just forever long, right? And they were only letting people sign this this poster that they were handing out. That's the only thing that people would sign.
They always did that.
Yep. So we get all the way to the front of the line. It took forever. My son was like 3 or 4 years old. He's little. And we get to the front of the line. He's already whining or whatever. And my wife tells you the story or tells the people the story and wants you to sign this little thing that she made. And they're like, no, he's not allowed to sign anything else. And you were like, wait a minute, when was she born? And she's like, she's being born right now. You're like, oh, this is ridiculous. I got to sign that. So you sign it and you get the rest of the quarterbacks to sign it. And then while you're signing it, I don't know why. I have no idea to this day why you did it. My son was starting to get really fussy and you picked him up and started holding him and just like calming him down. It was the most remarkable thing. And listen, you like made a fan out of me that day and you've been my guy since that day. So it was an amazing. There's no way you remember that, but I just had to share that with you.
Well, hopefully. So I'm bringing my, I have a 2.5-year-old son, Maddox, and we tried, as you know, we try to take him out in public as much as we can, just to get him used to it. But he could be a handful at times. He's a very much of an entertainer. He likes to be the center of attention. So we've taken him to like a baseball game. We lasted about half an inning. Usually we go to dinner that doesn't last too long. So I'm like, we're going to take him this weekend to the parade. So it's like, are you sure? Do you sure you want to take him? I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out. It'll be fine. My parents are coming. There'll be 4 adults that can kind of keep their eye on him. So we'll see. But like, if he goes crazy and Stetson's around, I expect Stetson to, pick him up and calm him down a little bit. So we'll see if he can keep that going for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
And speaking about Stetson, Aaron, we talked about it pre-show. You were the first one that I remember that came out and fully backed them. I mean, it was incredible to me. Those folks that were putting together the creative design for Georgia found your tweets to put with that the goat, the little goat thing they did on social media after Stetson got pulled. I was like, man, they got the bookmarks from my man Aaron. Aaron was on the train before anybody, so I kind of want to get started off, just kind of your side of the story of what you've seen from Stetson over the years.
Well, I think it's how you look at the position and obviously playing the position. I know there's a lot more that goes into it than just throwing a football. There's a lot that comes from, for me, the best quarterbacks out there are the best leaders, those that, can make those guys on their side of the football and the defense side of the football, essentially take their game to another level. Peyton Manning did that. Tom Brady does that. Joe Burrow has been tremendous to watch and kind of see what he did at LSU and now kind of the command that he has and that swagger he has there at Cincinnati. And Stetson's just like that. I mean, when Stetson, the best example was last year. At one point, when JT's kind of come back from his injury, even the defensive guys, I think it was like Nolan said, no, like, Stetson's our guy. Like, we believe in Stetson. And that's part of the job. I mean, yeah, you got to be able to throw the football. You got to be accurate. You got to take care of it. You can't put the ball in harm's way. Like, I get all that. But if you can make, especially on offense, those 10 guys around you take their game to another level, if you can, correctly, execute a blitz pickup so the offensive line looks like they're a bunch of bad mothers up there and they're taking care of mics and corners and safeties coming from all these different angles, like then they trust you. And the receivers are trusting you and the route concept and stuff like that. So to me, I saw that from Stetson, from his work ethic to the way he carried himself, the confidence. the way the team kind of reacted to him. I was like, this team believes in him. There's something to it that we may not be seeing that's going on behind the scenes. So just a big fan of that, first off. And then, to see him grow as a football player from someone of a little bit too much of a risk taker at times, a little bit of a gunslinger, to taking care of the football, playing big in big time games. It's been really, really fun to kind of see what he's done these past 2 years.
Dan?
Yeah. So my question is kind of like, so now that Stetson's leaving, right? Obviously the torch has to be passed to somebody. Now your career was very different. You played for 4 years. You started for 4 years. You were the guy. You didn't really have to look over your shoulder that much. Now it's going to fall on somebody else. I think the odds-on favorite, if you were to ask the room, would be Carson Beck. I think most people expect that, although Vandergriff, really talented guy, Gunner, talented guy. How has his presence in that room affected the guys that are in that room, and how do you see that transition playing out?
Well, first off, Bobo made it pretty sure, that I knew that week in and week out that if I didn't perform, Hudson was on my tails. And Hudson would ball out in practice. Now, like Hudson would make some throws in practice. I'm like, sheesh, like I better step my game up. Like Hudson was great with anticipation. So like, he'd make some throws and, I may have been late on the play. He comes in there, does the same play, it's right on target. And Bo was like, Aaron, step it up, man, step it up. So yeah, Hudson was always nipping a little bit. But I think, the one thing that Carson to me can learn from Stetson is that confidence, is that leadership. Because there's no doubt that, like, listen, Carson's the better thrower. Carson's the best thrower on that roster. I mean, the kid, the ball pops out of his hands. He throws it with anticipation, accuracy, can layer the ball down the field. I mean, some of the dagger routes he throws, I'm like, my goodness, like he has the full package. There's, like I said, there's no doubt about that. It's once again, he has to get to that, what Stetson excels in, that leadership, the confidence. When you step into the huddle, do you have that little bit of a swagger where guys like, okay, this dude's about to, take us down on a touchdown. We're down the Ohio State drive. We need to score a touchdown. Does Carson Beck walk into that huddle with the confidence that I'm going to take us down there and score to win the football game? Stetson did. That's what Carson needs to get to. And I think he's learned from Stetson these past couple of years. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, so I had a Tennessee game earlier this season, and we're talking to the coaching staff about, obviously Hendon and Joe Milton and the quarterbacks. And, there's, when they got to that, to Tennessee, Heupel was like, there's no doubt in my mind that Joe Milton's our guy. The guy has more talent than maybe anyone else in college football, can throw the ball a mile, big kid, 6'5", 240. I mean, he looks beautiful from a quarterback standpoint. But there was just something missing in those couple of games. And, obviously Hendon took over. Hendon had success. Well, this season, Joe Milton was rooming with Hendon Hooker. And they just said his confidence in practice, his maturity, everything about him just grew up. And you saw it in essentially garbage time this season. You saw it in the Orange Bowl. That's what I'm expecting from Carson. I'm expecting a young quarterback, maybe a little bit immature in the position, not personality, but just in the position. We all were, you have to learn, is now learn from one of the best to do it at Georgia, and is ready to now take it and kind of make it his own, similar to what Joe Milton is hoping to do, there at Tennessee, learning from Hendon for a year. So I'm excited. I've seen him a lot over the past few years and have just been gushing with the thought of him being the starting quarterback at Georgia one day.
Absolutely. And, high rated prospect from the state of Florida. Sound like deja vu? I don't know. We'll see, Aaron. We'll have to see there. I really wanted to, kind of what I got into. You kind of got into a little bit there, talking about your relationship with Bobo. I don't know. You're obviously, you have a relationship with those guys. I mean, have you seen anything on tape from your experience? Have you seen a little touch of Bobo in that offense? With him being back in Athens?
Not really, because I mean, at least from like my offense, but you gotta remember, like my offense is like ancient nowadays. Like we were, heavy 21 personnel. We had a fullback. A lot of these guys have no idea what a fullback even is.
Hey, Iowa still runs it. Yeah,
I mean, it's rare. Like I may have had, I covered 15 games this year, and I may have had one game where there was actually a fullback in it in the game. It was actually Buffalo. I actually had the Camellia Bowl. It was Buffalo versus Georgia Southern, and Buffalo was the first team all year I saw that actually used a fullback. So it doesn't get used much. So I mean, that was our offense, man. We were 21 personnel, heavy downhill power schemes, zone schemes, play action pass, take some shots down the field. So like, some of the route concepts are obviously very similar. Like everyone runs the same routes. It's kind of how do you get to them. So, it is just offenses in general have evolved. I will say this, like, to me, Todd Monken's a top 3 play caller in America. And it's just, I think it's hard for people to kind of wrap their minds around because the offense doesn't run through receivers. Like you think of elite offenses over the past 7 years. We think of, Alabama and Tua and Waddle and then Mac and his receivers. We think of LSU and Joe Burrow and his receivers. We think of, that's what really comes to mind. We think of Ohio State and, their elite receivers. Georgia doesn't really run their offense through the receivers. It's tight ends first. It's, I would say, running back second, James Cook last year, Kenny this year. And then third, it's kind of the receivers. So for people, they're like, okay, it's an elite offense. Let me go see what kind of receivers they have. And they have great receivers, but that's not the first team. Like they don't have a receiver that has 80 catches for, over 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns. But to me, this is the most unique offenses because it gives defenses so many issues because of all the communication that has to be done. So I love it, man. I've been such a big fan of Todd Monken there, and kind of what he's done, and excited that he's coming back. I just think this next year with the weapons that he's going to have, with Ra coming and Levitt coming, with what there's already on the roster, this may be one of the best offenses in the country, once again.
Well, we had a question from one of our buddies, Jeremiah Stoddard, and you may know him. I think you do know him. But anyway, his question was, can Stetson have a prolonged NFL career in your opinion?
Oh, yeah. I think, it was funny. Muhammad Massaquoi, former receiver at Georgia, texted me 2 nights ago. And Muhammad goes, listen, I don't know the position like you do. I haven't watched a lot of Bryce Young. I've watched some, obviously, because Alabama's always on. But like, he's like, what's the big difference between Stetson and Bryce? And I was like, I mean, like, Bryce is better, but like, not that much better. Like, you want to talk about arm strength. I think they're very comparable. Maybe Bryce a little bit more speed. Stetson may be a little bit faster. I think Bryce is a little bit more creative in the pocket. He's like a point guard. He's like Steph Curry. He does a great job of feeling the pressure, moving around, but so does Stetson. They're about the same size. They do a lot of the same things. It's like, Bryce just may be a little bit more athletic. So at the end of the day, like, I don't think it's worth a 4-round difference. I think Stetson definitely has the ability to get drafted somewhere in that maybe late 3rd, 4th round. So he's going to have a plenty of an opportunity, in my opinion, to make a roster at the end of the day. I think he's a smart kid. Like I said, I think he, fits well in today's game. He's athletic. He's accurate. He's not afraid to take shots down the field. I think he's a very, very accurate and strong arm. So yeah, I think Stetson can have a pretty good career as long as he continues to work the way he's done and has the confidence that he has. I mean, listen, there's 60 quarterbacks that have started NFL games this season alone.
Ooh.
There's about 10 or 15 of them that when you go through the list, Stetson's better than, some of these backups in the NFL. I'm like, how is that guy starting? Like what? Like, no. So yeah, I'm excited to see where he ends up.
And our friend Jonathan Williams just dropped this in here. Interesting because I saw this. I don't remember who said it. I listened to your podcast Snaps today and then the other day after the championship game. Just see where everyone's feeling. Brock Purdy, he says, I think Stetson could have a Brock Purdy type NFL career. May start as a 3rd option, but when and if his time comes, he could surprise a lot of people.
Oh, sounds like his college career, and that's the thing. Like that's the one thing about like the NFL is, if you're not a 1st round pick or even really like a 2nd round pick, like you just got to be ready, man. Like your opportunity may never come, but when it does come, you better be ready to shine because you may only get one opportunity to go out there and play, and if you crap the bed, then you're in trouble. Or if you're like Brock Purdy and go out there and ball out, all of a sudden you may win a Super Bowl this year as a starting quarterback your rookie year. And that's the one difference. Like, Carson was kind of slated to be the quarterback when JT went down and, just wasn't ready. Stetson took over and, to me, kind of the thought process was, in that building was, okay, let's give Carson maybe another week, get him some more reps, and then, see if he's ready to start after that until JT's healthy. And Stetson went out there and threw 5 touchdowns. And then kind of from there, it's like, okay, how do you take the ball out of his hands? But if Stetson versus UAB would have been, 55%, maybe 1 touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe an interception, I guarantee you the next week the conversation would be, okay, do we need to start Carson? Is Carson now ready to take that step? But that's what I'm talking about. Like when your moments are presented to you, you better be ready to take advantage. And Stetson has shown us for the past 2 years that, whether it's that game where he took over the starting quarterback, big time games in his career, that like when the moment comes to take his game to another level, he rises to that challenge.
So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Kirby's only 47. Most people assume he's going to coach for a long time. But if you can remember back to when Urban Meyer and Nick Saban have also said that the pressure from the fan base, you can't please them once you start winning titles. They get that negative tension to them. Do you foresee that attitude taking over the Georgia fan base? Because I've never known it to be that way. I mean, listen, they can be crazy.
We never won before. We've never won like this before either. We've never won like this before. That's the difference.
So it's a big question in my mind. Is Georgia going to turn into that evil fan base and put so much pressure on their coach that he wants to walk away? Do you see that happening?
I hope it does. Not that he walks away, but they put that pressure on him. Like I hope. To me, I hope Kirby's coaching when my son goes to play college football one day. If he does decide to play, hopefully not. Hopefully he's like a golfer. Would be awesome. But well, we'll see. So no, I hope. I said I hope Kirby has a long career and wins many, many championships. And I think he can. Like, if there's anyone that's going to be anywhere close to Nick Saban, it's going to be Kirby for a lot of reasons. One, he's a hell of a coach. He's an incredible motivator. The resources at Georgia may be the best in the country. We all know downtown Athens can't be beat. It's great academics, beautiful campus, beautiful scenery, incredible stadium, tradition, championships, everything. I mean, there's everything you want. An hour away from Atlanta, major airport that you can fly anywhere in the country. Kids can fly in, parents can fly in. Like it has everything you want. So there is no reason why Georgia, and a fertile recruiting ground as well, no reason why Georgia can't continue to have the success it's having right now. So, the difference between him and say Urban and these other coaches is this is Kirby's dream job. That he's in the spot where he played football. That's somewhat rare. To go somewhere where you played, have success, win. Like he's not an NFL guy. He's making a ton of money. He loves Athens. I don't see him going anywhere. I do worry a little bit about, I know he's 47. I know he's a little bit young, but like, man, my man he grinds like no other. Like at what point does he start to burn out a little bit? Because it is absolutely exhausting to go as hard as he goes for year after year after year after year after year. So, but going back to your question about the fan base, like, yeah, I mean, we're going to get to be similar to Alabama. Like every year, every time Alabama loses a game, all my buddies that went to Alabama or played Alabama always come bitching and moaning to me on text messages like, oh, this is bull and the refs screwed us and this play and that play. Like they don't know how to lose. They really don't. They don't. And it's just like I honestly, like one guy, like I don't even respond to his text messages, but he just keeps texting me. I'm like, dude, like I do not get that. Like I don't want to hear you crying. Like just suck it up. You lost. It's okay. But like we're gonna get there. Trust me. Like Georgia fans are going to get there. I mean, hopefully not as bad as Alabama, but the way things are shaping up, man, we're probably going to win another national championship next year. And then at that point, expectations are going to be through the roof. They already are. So
absolutely. And real quick, before we do wrap it up, we got some questions in the chat, Aaron. And right off the bat, got a fastball in here. Would you ever leave your broadcasting career coach?
No, God, no. I love broadcasting. I love coaching. I would love to coach. But like I said, man, those dudes are in there all day, every day. Like I was at the Buttsmere. This was like, I don't know, like 5-6 days before Christmas. And, I sat down with Bobo. I saw Kirby and some of the other coaches and talked to them. And they're running around like chickens with their head cuts off. They're dealing with the transfer portal, recruiting, signing days coming up, getting ready for the Peach Bowl, worrying about the kids on their roster, NIL, academics. It's just, man, it's a nightmare. You're juggling a million different balls. A lot of them don't even have to do with football nowadays, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, it's a sacrifice, man. It's a sacrifice for your family. It takes an incredibly strong wife to kind of really put that, hold those households together. I'm not saying my wife isn't or couldn't. I wouldn't want to put her in that situation. Like, to me, like I want to coach my kids. Like my dad was always my coach. Every sport, my dad was always there. My parents were always very involved with my life. And, that would be the hard part for me, not being able to coach my son or my daughter and be at every football game and all that. So, it's kind of what's holding me back, unfortunately. And that's just the way the profession goes.
Let me just tell you, coaching your kid is freaking awesome, by the way. You're going to love it.
Oh, I can't wait. Hopefully in golf. Like I said, no football. No football.
And Jonathan comes in here. If NIL were a thing when you played, what kind of deal would you have wanted?
Some car deal. I would like a Jeep or like a Ford truck. Like I've had a truck my whole life, so maybe like a new truck would have been nice, or a little fun Jeep to kind of roam around campus with, top down, would be pretty sweet. So that would be one. Maybe like a deal with Delta. Obviously Delta being Atlanta, my parents had to drive or fly to Atlanta or Athens every weekend to come watch me. And that's what I'm talking about. Like my dad, man, it was incredible. Like every weekend they would, he'd finish work, get in the car, drive 7 hours to the game, go to the game, drive back on Sunday, back to Tampa, go to work, and then do it all over again for 4 or 5 months out of the year. Like, man, that's just like, so if I could have got like a deal with Delta where like my parents got like free tickets to fly back and forth and save my dad from being in the car 14 hours every weekend, that would have been pretty awesome.
Jeremiah comes back in. How much success would you have had in today's offense under Todd Monken?
I mean, I had a lot of success under Bobo. So like, absolutely. I mean, I own every SEC record. So I think I was pretty successful, but they definitely do throw the ball more. I mean, that's the difference. Like, these guys are a lot more in the gun, a lot more spread, up tempo, throw the ball down the field. There's just more plays based on the speed of the game. And like I said, all that up tempo offense, you're getting more throws in. So yeah, like, probably could have added another 20, 30 touchdowns probably.
Absolutely.
Random question, random fun question. Of all the Bulldogs you did not play with, who's the one dog you would have liked to play with?
I mean, I was gonna say Herschel, but I want to throw the football, so I don't want a top running back. Give me Bowers, man. I love the tight end position. I had some good tight ends. I had Orson, I had Arthur Lynch. But man, like I was in Kansas City. So my first year in Kansas City was Travis Kelce's second season. And Travis, his rookie year, was injured. So Travis didn't play. So when I got to camp, Travis was like my tight end. So like I remember our first preseason game, we had a 0-by-3 formation. So Travis was actually the slot receiver. Actually, no, Travis was backside. So he was a tight end. We had another tight end as our number 3. This tight end motioned across and we ran 2 verticals. And it was my first pass of my career in preseason. And I dotted Kelce for like a 40-yard touchdown. Well, next week, Kelce moved to the starters. I never saw Kelce again, but I got to kind of see, how an offense didn't have to revolve around a receiver and about what you could do matchup wise to, put a tight end against a linebacker or a safety, and how if you move him backside, it gives all these indicators to a quarterback. Like I was like, oh my God, like it's not just 2-by-2, 3-by-1, this receiver's here, tight end's here. Like, no. There's so many things you can do to create matchups and, disadvantages for defenses. So, kind of seeing that for those couple of years really opened my eyes up to what offenses could be. And then obviously now seeing what Monken does with Brock Bowers is like, man, give me him in that type of offense and let's go out there and score points.
Absolutely. And it still blows my mind how you just broke down that whole play and then just off pure memory. It's like the Sean McVay when he breaks down plays from,
we remember everything. We remember everything.
That's crazy.
Good and bad. Good and bad. Trust me, I got a lot of bad plays that wake me up at night.
and for final question, Aaron, it's just, we talked about that UAB game before we let you go. That to that point, I felt like that was statistically Stetson's best game, but he definitely outdid himself in the national championship game.
Oh my gosh. I mean, watching it felt like one of my high school games, honestly. I'm like, man, I haven't seen a butt whooping like this since like, playing high school when we literally just called 4 verticals every play and it was like a 60-yard touchdown. So, it was great. It was so funny. Like high school, like all these teams would just literally line up and cover 3. And I would just like pump the safety one way, throw the slot the other way, and it was just like touchdown. I mean, we threw, I think, like 7 touchdowns in one half, and the team just didn't get out of cover 3. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, okay, thanks. And that's kind of what it felt like. It just felt like everything was going right. I mean, after Georgia's first touchdown, I tweeted, I was like, this game's over. Like this is such a mismatch. And, he was special in that game. Everyone was. I mean, I talked to Javon Bullard last night, and, seeing him make his first 2 career interceptions, and the way Stetson played and Brock played and AD and Ladd, and man, it was a special season. It was an awesome season. And I tell you what, like, with how young this football team is, I think they could be even better next year. If they keep their head on right, it could be a really fun year in 2023.
Absolutely. And then to wrap it up, what you up to? We kind of updated on Tuesday. I know you're still involved in the Players Lounge. You got snaps with another former, your SEC brother. What you up to these days, Aaron?
Man, I'm nonstop. So I had a full SEC slate this year on ESPN, which was fun. So that was really, really exciting. I got a daily podcast with Colin Coward, his channel on the Volume with T-Bob Hebert. He played center at LSU, and he's one of the best personalities in sports talk.
Funny guy.
He's an absolute trip. I mean, so funny. So we have a daily show we do through Colin's network. I kind of do 5 hours of radio every day. I do show with T-Bob from 1 to 3. We do like a pre-show at 1. We do the regular show at 2. Then I do the SEC channel on Sirius from 3 to 6. And then, we're rolling a lot of stuff out with the Players Lounge. Really excited about that. Just, in the next 2 months, we're going to be introducing a lot of, new levels of content where it's more player driven. So, if you want to get a good example, we just had a really good show last night that just went out live today. It was me, Champ Bailey, and Javon Bullard. So, like, finding ways to connect former lettermen like myself and Champ along with current student athletes, and just having fun, chopping it up, really good conversation. So we're excited about it. Got a lot of good stuff coming out, like I said, the next few months as we get ready for next fall.
Absolutely. And with that, I want to make sure we give everyone the shout out here. Make sure you follow Dan Kiley at DanClyde3. Make sure you follow Aaron Murray at Aaron Murray11. And I know everybody in this comment section already follows him, but make sure you go show love to his podcast and everything he does, because, man, that schedule you just put out there, it's like you're still playing football. Just in constant.
It's all day, every day, man. It's fun. I love it. I love football. I'm listen, I'm extremely blessed, and you guys get to do it too. To cover the game, to stay around the game. It's the best game out there, and it just, the fans are awesome, the players are awesome, and I've been very fortunate to kind of work my way up the ladder and hopefully continue to work my way up.
Absolutely, Aaron. We thank you so much for coming on, guys. Thank you all for in the comment section for putting questions in there. Wait, what Auburn did the weekend you called their game was messed up with the Jumbotron?
They actually was they just put the they put the hit of D Ford. No, it was the D Ford hit. It's a D Ford hit. It was in 13 of him like taking me out. And I thought they just used it because they knew I was broadcasting. I guess they do it like all the time. That's just Auburn for you, man. That's just Auburn. D4 was actually we got drafted together at Kansas City. He's my boy. So he did apologize to me afterwards. He was a bigger man. So obviously Auburn just can't get over it though.
Hey, they're your little brother. They're your little brother. So, hey, with that being said, guys, we thank all for joining us. We thank Aaron so much for coming on here. We've been looking forward to it. Aaron, we'll see you sometime soon, man. Definitely let's keep up with them and wish you all the luck.
Appreciate it, man. Go Dogs, and see y'all in Sanford Stadium on Saturday with a little fun at the parade.